This mega two-part episode of the Managing Madrid podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Let's talk about the hero of Valentine's Day. It's the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped. This electric trimmer features skin-safe technology, guarding your V-Day treasure against any grooming mishaps. Listeners, join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com to snag 20% off and free shipping with code Managing Madrid. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Managing Madrid at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code Managing Madrid because your grooming upgrade awaits, ready to charm your Valentine's dates. And with that, let me introduce today's podcast. It is in two parts. Part one, Leah Revelle. She has been on the show before. Canadian Madridista, ticks off all the boxes, and she does commentary for eSports on FIFA. You might have seen her on Twitch, etc. And we talk about eSports, we talk about Real Madrid season, we talk about the culés melting down after the Almeria game, and a ton more. And then part two, Lucas Navarrete and I continue the discussion about referees, unfortunately, and then get into the Militao contract renewal and all the details there and whether or not it was the correct decision or not. To me, it's pretty clear, but we discuss it regardless. Enjoy the episode, and let's get it.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, welcome to part one of the Managing Madrid podcast. Today we have the long overdue appearance of Leah Revelle, creator, presenter, and eSports commentator, and most importantly, Madridista. This is her second appearance, and it's pretty embarrassing that it's only been two. It should be way more. But we got Leah on to talk about a bunch of things, and it's very timely because I saw Leah was on Twitter just typing away, talking her shit, talking her trash, very triggered by the Barca fans who were losing their minds after the Almeria game. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about other things, and we'll talk about Leah's very cool job that many people are very jealous of, but can't really pull off the way she does anyway. So Leah, welcome. How you doing? What's up?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back. I'm doing well. A little tired, a little jet lagged, but we move.
So you were in London?
Yes, I was in London for an event this past weekend, E-Premier League. It was my first one of the year, so it was nice to be back on the road. I've been home for last year. The end of the year was crazy, so it was nice to be home for a couple months, but we're back at it.
I like that you travel a lot. I have trouble keeping up with where you are. I wasn't sure if you were back in Canada, if you're in England. The Instagram stories kind of give you a bit of a clue, but you never really know. So I don't really know exactly what you do all the time. Like, I know that you do your Twitch streams and you do the commentary. What am I missing?
It's pretty much the extent of it right now. Twitch is like the main, is it even anymore? Twitch is where it started. And I still try to stream as much as possible, especially with the new game, the new iteration, FC24. But now it's kind of evolved into, since we spoke last time, I think it's evolved significantly. So now it's more, I would say half and half, maybe, more of like a hosting commentary role with eSports or with FC specifically. So that's what most of the travel is for. Recently, though, or recently to the future, I'm trying to evolve content into more FC and a football focus because I'm on the road a lot. So it's hard to stream, obviously. So recorded content sometimes is easier to produce when you're moving around and everywhere. So that's the goal for 2024.
Yeah. It's easier to get content when you're actually doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
it's really not hard. I can't call it FC. I still forget that that's the new name. You must be used to it because you have to be used to it by now with your job. Well, explain the. You're not.
Well, we had an event at the beginning of the year for launch in Amsterdam, and or at the end of like the beginning of the cycle, in September, and no, in August, no, whenever it was, whatever it was before launch. But it was like Haaland, Erling Haaland was there, Ronaldinho were there, Figo, Drogba, everyone. I'm sure
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
Insane, by the way, outrageous, but I like very spontaneously like casted a FIFA, an FC match between like DJ Mario and Ronaldinho and Haaland and a bunch of different people, and they like a dozen times had to be like, Leah, it's FC, it's not FIFA, it's not FIFA. So we're not there yet, but better now.
So what do you like? How do you start a conversation with Haaland? Like he's sitting there, he's playing FIFA. What do you remember the interaction? Do you remember what you said?
I'm not gonna lie, I blacked out. Like there's meeting like one like very one second, my phone's ringing. One very like famous, popular like football player, but then meeting like 10 at once. Like it's insane. I think I asked him like when's the last or how often do you play FC, like when's the last time you played. He was like dripped out in head to toe like silk, green silk. He had like green LV like X, I don't know if they were Nikes or Adidas or whatever they were, but like he had a Van Cleef bracelet on that was green. Like he was, it's just, and this guy's like, I'm for context, well we've met in real life, so you know, but like for people that are watching or listening, I'm 5'1", 155 centimeters, and this guy's like 6'5" or like 6. It's insane. He's huge. And yeah, like most of that interaction I blacked out completely, because they also didn't tell me that like it was last minute that they told me it's Ronaldinho. It was supposed to be Haaland and Receba guy, and that alone was insane. But like, okay, one, I can. Then it was Ronaldinho, and I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, pardon? Which, you know, he's one of the best footballers of all time, so insane. But then they didn't mention Figo or Drogba at all, or Kelly Smith. So my friend Shauna and I are just standing there behind Ronaldinho and DJ Mario. And all of a sudden, like Figo and Drogba and Kelly Smith just like come walking around. And so I look to my side and I'm like, ugh. So that's kind of when like everything went dark. I just like, it was insane. Plus everyone, all the creators that they've invited there, you know, like 100 plus are just gathered around watching. So plus EA, plus like whatever other brands are there. So it was, the whole experience was amazing. But
plus it's getting broadcasted live, I'm assuming, or okay.
That one wasn't live. They said explicitly, don't worry, it's not live, so like you can like, you know, whatever. But then in like some of the announcements was my voice, like in the FC announcement in September, whenever it was, I had made a little cameo in that, and I was like, oh good, great. So but it was really good. It's really cool obviously to meet them, but then be included in some of like the promotional like posts and reels and stuff on the FC account. So really cool. But yeah, I think he scored like 6 goals with himself, because I think he played with City. So
who won?
He did.
Like he did. So is he like legitimately good? Like, or is he just like
good?
Okay.
He's
so
pretty good.
Describe this, like the atmosphere. So like you walk into an eSports, is it what do you call it? A stadium, an auditorium, a room? What is it called?
A studio.
Studio. But isn't there like, so how many people are playing? How many people are watching in attendance, like as fans? What is going on?
So most of the events recently have been like most of the LAN events. This one obviously is different because it was more of like a launch party, like a launch event. But the actual tournaments, like this past weekend, for example, they rent out a studio. This time it was a TV studio, so it was like really cool to walk up. It's where like Dancing with the Stars was filmed, another show or another movie, I don't remember. But anyways, like shows, like TV shows and movies and stuff were filmed, and they have several different like studios. But this one, you walk in and it's really cool. They have like a player lounge where all the players will go and like sit, you know, talk with their other competitors. They have food, drinks, whatever. Then there's the area where the players warm up, like where they practice. And a lot of content is there. For us, we have dressing rooms or green rooms that like we can go to before and after. There's hair and makeup. Like it's a whole like huge, very thoroughly produced event. And then the actual stage inside the studio is usually pretty like outstanding. Like it's pretty, even the FC Pro ones, if you've seen those, like they're very like, you know, lots of lights, lots of like modern touches. Like it's like a real studio, like a TV studio that has a full set and everything. So what usually happens is there's like a main stage game, which is like the big, where all the lights are. It's usually the one that gets broadcasted. There's a caster's desk. There's a host or like presenter desk, an analyst area. And yeah, it's very extravagant. Like it's unlike the first time I ever went to an event. Even now, like I've only done less than 10, I would say still. And I'm still like, holy, like these sets are crazy. And it's really cool to be like on stage with lights and cameras, like full of jibs and everything. Like it's crazy.
It's just amazing to me that this is a thing. Like the market for this stuff is so crazy. And I remember it was you, I think, who told me, like I was telling you that my son is getting into video games because his friends are getting into video games and he's coming home. And keep in mind, he's like, at that time he was 5, now he's almost 7. And he's talking about like, hey, my friends are playing Minecraft and Mario, can I play? And I have a 4-year-old who also is starting to play like that. You know those like it's not Temple Run.
Oh my God, Subway Surfer.
Maybe it's
For
a kid on the
sure.
skateboard, but then there's also a Sonic the Hedgehog one where you just kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the Temple Run idea anyway.
Yeah.
And
Temple Run with fire, by the way.
It's not bad for what it's meant to do, which is to pass time if you're bored and you have no internet.
Yeah.
It's and like I really try to limit screen time as a parent. So like we'll like designate it, okay, like these specific times you can do it, the rest you're playing outside or you're playing with toys. I'm amazed, like a 4-year-old, he doesn't, like no one's taught him how to play this game. Yeah. So the first couple times he's just like, nah, he doesn't know what to do. Now I'm looking at him, he's like, just, okay, jump over this, get this star, duck under here, go right. I'm like, how did you figure this out? This is crazy. And you said, you know, let them play because there's a lot of money in this now. And I said, okay. So because of you now, my kids play video games.
Oh.
How much? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say sometimes, like, in my experience, and obviously, like, all of the people that I'm surrounded with now, like, video games, especially once you get older, is like it's an escape. I think we said the same thing. Anything in moderation, like, balance with everything. Like, if you're in front of a screen 24/7, like, then it's a problem. But to pass time, like as a hobby, I think especially now, especially because there are so many opportunities that not even like competitively, but like with content or with, you know, like maybe, especially with your industry too, like maybe your son in however many years will be a creator also. So
I just like, I'm always jealous of people like you and other content creators who kind of have that more like, I don't know what to call it. Just getting the social media thing and knowing what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know the word. That's how old I am. Like just getting it, I guess, getting it. And like knowing how to do the whole TikTok thing and all this. And I'm trying, like the last year or two, we've really been upping our social game in terms of reels and TikTok and shorts and all that stuff. But just like, and that's why I want to collaborate with you guys more. Is you guys just kind of like get it, and I'm trying to learn from you guys a little bit. But I think you're very good at. Okay, so I have an important question.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm really looking at here, but you upload these things on Instagram, and it's like a card reveal,
The one that you messaged me was like, I want to do this.
No, not that. Okay, that was a whole different thing that I wanted to do, but I didn't even get around to doing it, which was ranking footballers that come up.
Yes.
So like, and then you have to like put them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you don't know what the next player is, so it's kind of risky if you put them too high or too low, whatever. So you do your like you'll I think they're like FIFA cards. So you're waiting for a player to be revealed.
Yeah.
And then it can be whatever player. And it's either a women's player or a men's player, and you're either disappointed or excited about the player. What is happening in that situation? Is that FC? Is this FIFA Ultimate Team? Okay.
Yeah.
I've never played the Ultimate Team. I've only played just the straight up,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You should play Ultimate Team. Ultimate Team's fun. And there's different levels that you can play. Like you can play offline, you can play online, you could play like competitively, like weekend league. But what those like my reels and stuff that I post are packs, like pack openings. So you can either buy them or you can either like do things in game that reward you with packs that you can open. And they basically will give you cards that you can construct like your best 11. So sometimes you get like right now it's team of the year. So you could get like team of the year Mbappe or like team of the year whoever, or you can get like really shit ones. And some of the ones that I posted are like, there's like baits. So there's an item that is a woman, Katoto, and it shows up like French PSG striker, and then it ends up being her when it could be Mbappe. So it's always like, it's really fun. It's a
so
fun,
they tease you a little bit, maybe get your hopes up. Okay.
Did you see the one where I packed in the same pack? They have this new thing this year in FC that they did with a double walkout. So walkout is 86 rated overall plus. Okay. And so the walkout that I got, the double walkout that I got was Kroos on the front, or Modric on the front and Kroos on the back. So it was Modric, and then it turned around and it was Kroos. So fun, obviously. And then all the comments were like, better together. It was cute.
But there was one recently where it was like a really good player, and I was confused as to why you were disappointed. I can't remember who the player was. And now I can't like go to your Instagram and look it up. It would take forever. But I don't remember who it was. And you were disappointed with a player that I've been like, oh, that's a good player. I don't remember who it was.
Is it a girl?
Maybe. No, I don't think so.
I don't know. I have to check after.
So and then you actually go and play the games with these players. You're not simming them or whatever, right?
You can sell them. Like if they could be tradable or untradeable. If they're tradable, you can sell them. So like,
no, I mean, you're not simming them. You're not simming the game.
Yeah. Well, no. You go and play like real games
with real people online.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have the same player as someone else?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't get. I'm asking ridiculous questions now. You know what I would actually be interested in doing is that I just want to see how much better you are at me than FIFA. Like I really want to know how. Like I want to gauge my skills. Yeah. Like we would actually like stream it online.
Oh my god, fine. Yeah, we should play.
Yeah, like and I want to see like how bad I am compared to you. Like so sometimes like it's weird. Like so full disclosure, I haven't played it since the most up-to-date version I have is 22. And I kind of am I play seasons only. I don't play anything else. I don't play friendlies, or I don't even play with my friends in person or whatever. And I'm too good for Division 2, but too bad for Division 1. So I have this cycle where I'll coast through Division 2 and then immediately get to Division 1 and just get roasted and roasted and roasted and roasted, and then I get relegated. I'm like, what the fuck? So I don't know how to get past that hump. But I'd be curious to know. I would totally be down for a live stream session where we just
that would
play.
be fun.
Yeah,
we should do that. Really good.
You were in Madrid recently.
Yes, I was.
How was that experience? Was it your first game in attendance?
No. So it was my third Real Madrid match, my second at the Bernabeu. I was in Madrid in 2019, where I went. It was Real Madrid v Villarreal, I think. Okay. And so this one I went to the final in 2022 in Paris, which was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about that. You were there. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And this was my third Real Madrid match at the Bernabeu, which obviously it was completely renovated and looked completely different than it did in 2019. So, and it was at the time, it was against Osasuna. At the time, it was our best match of the season by far.
I can't even remember. I was there. I don't remember what happened that night.
Jude scored, Vinny scored.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, Joselu, I think.
Okay.
And maybe Vinny too. I don't remember. But 4-0 against Osasuna. It was dominant.
So, what are your thoughts on the season so far? I know that's a vague question, but
I think okay, good, obviously. I'm so pleased with I'm so pleased with the team. I'm so pleased with the roster. I think we said this last time, or maybe we said this, or maybe I said this on stream. I don't know. But we just silently, one of the things that clubs in general struggle with is rebuilding. And at some point, every team has to go through a rebuild. And the same thing with Manchester United, for example, is happening. Barcelona, it's happening. Chelsea, it's happening. But with Barcelona, for example, they built their entire system around Messi for decades. And then once Messi left, they were like, okay, well, what formation do we play? What system do we play? And it just it takes some time to replace people. But I feel and this unbiased, I feel people can relate that Real Madrid just silently replaced, Casemiro, Ronaldo, Benzema. Did we really replace Benzema? No, but we just brought in these youngsters and developed, Brahim sent him away on loan and he came back. We just silently rebuilt almost flawlessly, and now we're still almost firing on all cylinders. So in that sense, our midfield is, and you know what, not that I was a hater, but when Jude was rumored to Madrid, I was like, why? We have Camavinga, we have Fede, we have too many, we have we re-signed Ceballos, why are we
yeah.
And obviously, I think everyone that doubted that are eating their words now. But yeah, I think in this sense of roster, I think we're it's perfect. Injuries obviously are a shame. I think we've been really unlucky, and I think it's not the same as pre-return of Pintus. When was that? 2019-20 or 2021? When we had 64 injuries in the season. It was the year of the pink kits, I think.
I can't remember.
I think it was, we got eliminated either against City or against Ajax in Champions League.
Ajax. And then I think it was, didn't Pintus come with Ancelotti the same year?
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Or the year before?
He came back in 2021.
Okay, so it must have been that year.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, it was the same with Ancelotti. So it was a 2021-2022 season where we won the Champions League. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's not that's not the issue this time. It's just the schedules, and the scheduling is outrageous, and that's why people are getting injured. I saw something on Twitter where we've seen more ACL injuries. The first 2 weeks of the season, there were not just at Real Madrid, 2, now 3 even at this point. We're not even, are we halfway through the season? Yeah, I think at this point, but 3 ACL injuries in 1 year is on the same team. But in Europe,
it's unprecedented.
It's insane. It's insane. So I think in that sense, it sucks. But performance-wise, I think we were unlucky to go out of Copa del Rey. But I mean, we know how we do in Copa del Rey,
Yeah.
But I think overall, I'm getting 21-22 vibes all over again. So
I looked, a season like that, 2021-2022 is such a special season, but I think almost every year there is a chance that Real Madrid could win the Champions League, no matter how good or bad they look. It's always on the cards. I think I tore my ACL last night. I can't explain it. I don't know. It's a really weird thing to casually bring up, but last night I was playing in a game, and I just landed awkwardly on my knee, and my knee kind of just shifted, and I felt something go, and then it affected my leg and ankle, and I could barely walk. And then today I was going for my usual Tuesday run. It's a 40-minute run, like at a fast pace, and 30 seconds in, I was like, I literally can't move, and I came back, and I'm gonna go check it out, and I was like, this is cursed. This season is cursed. I think.
Yeah, it literally is.
Yeah.
I hope not. That would suck.
It's okay. I'm not. I can still do my job with an ACL tear. So
we're not football. We're not professional footballers. We would have been if it wasn't for our injuries, right?
Well, we would have been absolutely at the top of the podium. There's no question. Your point about the rebuild is interesting because this is something that many Barcelona fans would bring up, and somehow it didn't apply to us. And they would say, okay, well, it's okay we lost this Clásico, or it's, wow, look at the fact that we beat these guys when we're rebuilding and they're established. What are you talking about? We both lost our GOATs.
Yeah.
And we were going through a rebuild too.
Yeah.
It's just that we built our squad better than you guys.
Yeah.
It's not our fault, you know? I mean, I think Real Madrid have done an amazing job of setting themselves up for the future. Yeah. And you say we didn't replace Benzema, and I know we didn't, but I mean, I'd be really interested to know, had we signed a striker, would he have as many goals as Bellingham has had this season?
Probably not.
I would guess no. I can't say that for sure, but Bellingham's been so good that like he's basically been the Benzema replacement when you factor in that Benzema himself was not a traditional striker. Like Bellingham, he liked to play outside the box.
Yeah.
And that's
sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
No, I was just gonna say this is the thing that I've been saying to my stream is that like now there's been obviously Mbappe, that's a whole different saga, but Haaland, for example, like I don't think, maybe this isn't a hot take or an unpopular opinion, or maybe it's not, but like Haaland is Haaland. Obviously he's like probably the best striker like in football at the moment, like as a like traditional striker, target man, like, you know, like poacher, he is that. But traditionally we haven't really played with that kind of striker. You know what I mean? Like the system that we use doesn't really it's not that, you know what I mean? Like even Benzema during BBC era was still like a 9, you know what I mean? Like a center, not like a center forward. And I think that's why like a player like, unfortunately, Harry Kane, like pre-Bayern move would have been perfect if we were going to
perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, like Harry Kane, I think is the closest like body type, player type to Benzema in football. No question. Yeah. And so I think now this is working because that's the system we're used to playing. Like if we lost a striker, like if we had a Haaland and lost a Haaland, like if we play the way that like even City kind of played without a striker before they got Haaland, but like we're used to like creating, like building out from the back. Like we're used to, you know, using a center forward that drops back, like drops deeper and like creates more. So
yeah,
if we lost like Bayern lost Lewandowski, you know what I mean? Or like we would be in a different position now, sure. I think, you know? So I think that's why it's working. I mean, Jude is Jude. He's insane. But I think that's why it's working so well is that we replaced an offensive player with another offensive player. Maybe not a striker, but I think like Jude has all the assets. Like he has the creation, he has the hold up play, he's literally Zidane. You know what I mean? He has everything Benzema had as a center forward. Mm-hmm. Maybe less shooting, possibly. But yeah, I think that's why it's working so well. And then his mentality at 20 is like unlike anything I've ever seen before in my life.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting too that the good thing about Real Madrid and Ancelotti obviously fits this is that the ability to adapt your system around the players you have rather than having to find the square peg to fit into a system, a rigid tactical system, right? And we've had it's not just Benzema. I mean, before that, Raul was the same link up player, Butragueño link up, and then but then if you throw us the traditional nine like Van Nistelrooy or Ronaldo, we'll make that work, right? But yeah, I think Bellingham has been much closer to a Benzema type player than I imagined, because I had a similar reaction to you when we were linked with him last summer. It was, this guy's amazing. I would love to have him in our team. Not the most urgent signing, obviously, because we're just stacked in his position. And I actually predicted, and then, not to pat myself on the back, but it came true, was that the only way to fit all these guys in is put Bellingham in the diamond. So you have your three midfielders plus Bellingham as a fourth. You sacrifice someone else in attack, and that's what happened. But certainly I didn't, and nobody expected, and I don't think even Real Madrid themselves expected him to score like Benzema. And that was a huge surprise.
But we've always like really flourished with like a 10, you know, like we've always done like Isco as like someone in that role that can play up top, but also like drop deep. And I think the difference with Jude is he also is very strong, well, stronger, I would say, than Isco and James defensively. So like he really can be everywhere. Like I just think it's insane. It's insane. But yeah, I agree. I don't think anyone really expected. Everyone knew that everyone was kind of like giving Birmingham shit for retiring his jersey, his kit, like when he left. And now it makes sense.
I mean, I thought it was crazy too. I mean, I had one of the podcasts we did before the season started was with Seb Bloor of The Athletic, and because he had written a piece about Bellingham and how everyone around him at Birmingham, but also at Dortmund, were just amazed about his maturity and what he's doing at the age he's doing it. And when you put all the stories together about how everyone was impressed with him, it's not that crazy. It's still kind of crazy because, like, I mean, I can't picture Real Madrid even retiring a jersey. But when you factor in the fact that it's Birmingham, it's a smaller club. I mean, it's kind of like if a great player graduates from your high school and becomes like a sports star, you can kind of see them hanging it up in the rafters. I think it's a similar idea. So it made more sense as I kind of understood how highly they rated him, not only as a footballer, but also as a person. That was huge. All right. We've been leading up to this moment. Almeria. What are your notifications like? Are they, because you must get a more broad range of football fans and not just Real Madrid fans, or you get both, I'm assuming.
Both. I would say like more Real Madrid. To be honest, the tweet that I made yesterday about how there's more controversy like over Vinny's goal than there is with Barca and their allegations for the last 2 decades. I was very surprised at the response. There were only a few like Barca fans in my comments that were, you know, like, hey, me. But most of them were like, yeah, exactly, accurate. And it's true. Like, anyway,
I think we all had the same feeling.
Yeah. Well, okay. Here are my thoughts.
Yeah.
I think there's like a unanimous, Real Madrid's the biggest club in the world, you know? And I think there's a unanimous, like, for so many years, there was this agenda or this narrative that like Real Madrid was Vardrid until all of these allegations started coming out. Like we have seen it as Madrid fans. And like, of course, you know, listen, I'm not going to lie, pre-VAR, like, but that's hard too. And this sounds probably biased, but I think it's hard as a referee to get everything right. Like you play football, I play football. Like there are, in any sport, without like video review, there are calls that are incorrect. You know, it's unfortunate that sometimes it happens in, you know, bigger matches in Champions League or whatever than it does. Like, you know, like there are situations where you look back and you're like, oh, damn, okay. Like maybe this or this. But first of all, since the introduction of VAR, there's no coincidence that teams have gone on to win things and other teams have not. I think everyone could put that together.
You remember that like infamous, I don't know if you saw it, but it's basically a tweet that's been hung in the rafters of Twitter archives that are just immortal, where one of the Barca fan pages, when VAR was first introduced, they tweeted something to the effect of like, maybe since you're nodding your head, you may remember it better than I do. Do you remember what it said?
It said like, oh, now we'll see how many Champions Leagues or how many titles Real Madrid will win now.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
And of course, let's just say that Barcelona and Real Madrid are heading into two different directions, both with trophies and also future outlook. Since that tweet and since VAR.
Literally.
I think where I'm surprised is that it's one thing to be emotional after a game where you perceive as something going against you. And by the way, it's one thing for Almeria to be outraged. It's another thing for all the Almeria
Chelsea fans.
Yeah. All the Barcelona Almeria fans.
Yeah.
Who came out. So it's one thing to be emotional the day of the game, the night of the game, maybe when you go to bed. It's another thing for like 2 days after, when we've all seen the replays now and all the different angles, to just double down instead of being like, oh, okay, maybe I overreacted, maybe it was the right call. It's like they doubled down, and I think it's an ego thing. I think it's a combination of ego and also deflection of their own club, right? I thought the outrage, and I got in a fight at my soccer game with somebody because I'm new to the team, and one of them said La Liga was corrupt over that game, and I'm like, dude, no, like every single call was correct. Here's why. And I got in an argument like one of my first games back with the team with someone I don't even know, and I just am amazed that people are doubling down, tripling down on this narrative after seeing, and the interpretations are weird too. We're all seeing the same replays.
Yeah.
And Barcelona fans are acting like as if it hit Vinny here on the palm of the hand.
That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, number one, anyone that first of all, a lot of what I'm seeing, even from like, especially on the day of the match on Sunday, I saw tweets from like Premier League fans, like Bundesliga fans, like people that don't watch La Liga at all, but people that actively watch La Liga and Real Madrid will know. I saw a tweet actually that said like Real Madrid has had the most VAR calls against them in Europe, like in total, which you and I and everyone watching know
are
like,
not surprised. Yeah,
it's not surprising. What I don't understand is exactly what you said, the interpretation. What I will say, the penalty, clear. And like what Barcelona fans talking about, especially like the most recent one that I can remember, besides like blatant, I mean, they just got a foul given to them against, who was it against? Where Gundogan, like, he dove, like, and like another relegation team that's fighting relegation, like insane. And
there was also like, because their other complaint is that Rudiger made a foul in the box, which he didn't, but Koundé scored a goal this season pushing a player, like
not to mention like two hands, not to mention against Porto twice, Joao Cancelo, like the ball, it hit his arm, it redeflected direction because it hit his arm, and Koundé fouled whatever player in the box also, and Porto went out because of that. So like what Drogba and Piqué against Chelsea in the Champions League, Messi's famous like handball that was a goal, you know, like that's not, they're starting a fight that they don't want to start. We'll start there. However, what I will say, penalty that we got, for me, it's not like a handball is a handball. You know what I mean? It hits the arm, it hits the hand, it redirects its direction, you know? It's a handball.
So you thought that was a handball?
No.
Oh.
Our pen that we got. It was a handball, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the Vinicius one.
Vinicius. No.
Okay.
What I will say, Jude's their goal that was called off because of the foul on Jude in the build-up.
Yeah.
Was it foul? Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was.
Have I seen that not be called? Also, yes. Like I've seen that in La Liga, in the Premier League, like not be called Like the goal stands regardless of the foul in the build-up. So, but still, was it a
but
foul?
that's not our problem. Like you gotta,
Exactly.
every play is its own play. Like you can't go back and, well, it is one thing. Like I'm not saying people are wrong to be like, well, it should have been a foul in that game too. Well, my answer would be like, yeah, it should have been. But
it's consistency. Yeah. And that comes down to the refereeing. And I would have more of an issue of those not being fouls than that being a foul. Like if it was a foul, it was a foul. Like, you know what I'm saying? But Vinny's is where most of the like controversy is. And I watch it over and over and over. And even just this morning, I had a conversation with people where they're like, oh yeah, but look at it at this angle. Like that's a bad angle where it hits Vinny, like the angle from behind where you can blatantly tell that that's a bad angle. I'm like, okay, but no, it's a bad angle for you because it's showing you that it wasn't a handball. What do you mean it's a bad angle?
I know. I have the same frustration. Every angle proves it to me that it was not a handball, but for whatever reason, some angles to them show them it differently, and the only explanation I have is that they're looking at it with the blue and red glasses on. That's it.
1,000.
That's all it is.
1,000%. Yeah.
Like let's put it this way: if Bellingham, that Bellingham foul should have been called in the moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the referee was right there, and there were other instances where the referee was right there and didn't make the correct call.
Yeah.
So to get mad at VAR for intervening when that's what their job is to intervene on match-altering decisions, it's ridiculous. I also think like if there was a different scenario where Bellingham, let's say, I'm trying to think about how to phrase it actually. Let's say if Real Madrid scored that goal and it was theoretically Arribas who got fouled instead of Bellingham, the goal should not have stood. You know, like when you're talking about it's just very clear, like that's a foul. Like that, if it was called in the moment, we wouldn't be talking about this. So I don't know. And then, but again, the goalpost gets shifted constantly when you're talking about it, and that's why I think it's one of those things that I'm glad that so many people have really gone to bat for Real Madrid in this situation from what I've seen, mostly Madridista accounts, but it's just like the pendulum, like when you throw an argument back at them, the ball comes back harder with rage. You know what I mean? It just escalates, and that's why I don't like getting involved in it much. But in those situations, the doubling down of Barca fans, again, not Almeria fans, Barca fans, has been staggering to me.
No, it's just
defies logic.
It does, but that's the thing. And also, like exactly like you said, if that was like, let's say, like I don't know, Rafinha, someone that scored a goal, Rafinha, for example, because they score goals like that in Brazil, as Vinny said, you know, like if he scored a goal with his shoulder, they would be fighting to the death that it was a fully legal goal, that blah, blah, blah. Like if the roles were reversed, you know, number one. Number two, like I also tweeted yesterday, there's not been a single peep about the two chances yesterday with Atleti against, who they play? Granada?
Girona.
There's not been a peep.
Yeah.
Morata's goal was offside, blatantly, checked by VAR and given. And then I think Morata also had a handball in the box that wasn't given. So, like, where's all the uproar with that?
Yeah, no, exactly. This is, and it goes beyond Atletico. Every single La Liga game, shit like this happens. Every single game. Like, let's say, for example, if what Almeria went through was a game against Celta Vigo on Sunday, there would be zero outrage. No one would care.
Yeah,
exactly. And it happens a lot, and I'm always shocked because I just throw on La Liga a lot in the background, or if it's like a player I'm trying to track to see how they're doing, like Kubo, like I watch a lot of Real Sociedad, and it's staggering how many bad calls that like go against Real Sociedad or bad calls that go in favor of Real Sociedad. There's just bad refereeing in every game.
Yeah, in every league, I think it's just consistent.
Every league, every sport, I would go as far as to say.
Yeah.
I would even argue, even in FIFA, the video game, I'm just blown away about how many times there's a bad call. You know, please tell me this is not a real thing. Like, this is a glitch in the game or something. I swear, every time I think I have a corner kick, the virtual referee in FIFA gives them a goal kick. And it's like, there's no way. What are you talking about? Is it possible to have bad calls in FIFA?
I think like sometimes I don't actually know because I think like it's programmed, like it's programmed to be like what it is. But also sometimes I'm like, that was not a penalty, or like, that was not offside. You know, like I feel like I don't know. But
Last
also,
time I proposed a FIFA conspiracy to you, you shut it down pretty quickly. The PSG one. I think PSG the club pays the video game so that the thank God Messi and Neymar are gone from that team because I was so sick and tired of playing against people choosing PSG every
yeah,
single time.
yeah. Well, now it
So
just
nice.
changed. Now it's Real Madrid and City,
Yeah.
and sometimes PSG still because of Mbappe. But what were we?
Conspiracies, FIFA.
No, before that, refereeing,
Mm.
refereeing. Oh yeah, in the Premier League, for example, it's also known that the officiating is like not great, not consistent. But
Mm.
a lot of complaints are never club directed. You know what I mean? Like most of the complaints on like match day, whatever,
Is
on
that it's
Saturday
just bad for
is like,
everybody.
what is this officiating? Another like match day where officiating is bad. And
Yeah.
like in the game, like in any game with those calls, like it's always listen, that's what you get for being the best. That's just what it is. You know what I mean? Being the
Yeah.
most successful, being the best. And at this point, being better, like before, okay, like in the the Classico era where it was Ronaldo Messi, like Barcelona and Real Madrid were head to head. Like some years Barca, I mean not in Champions League, obviously, but in La Liga, like it was always a big competition. But now we've just gone so clear of Barcelona that like Barcelona fans have to kind of like swallow that, and they
It's
don't like it.
inferiority complex.
Yeah, for
Classic
1,000.
example.
Yeah. And
I
so
also
now, like,
think like I have to admit that I have a little bit of bias. Like it would
of
be
course.
impossible not to have some bias, but I
Yeah.
really try not to be biased. And I think in this situation, why I truly believe I'm not biased is that I think that sometimes Real Madrid do get the benefit of the whistle,
Mhm.
and they also get screwed a lot. And I think
Yeah.
every team goes through that. Like you can make a compilation of for every single club in the world can make a compilation of times they got screwed and times that they got benefited.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's
Exactly.
almost no exception to that. But I think where a lot of the Kool-Aids that I've seen, and I'm not going to generalize it to their entire fan base, it's that they just don't believe that it's like that. They believe it's black and white. No, every single call has gone your way.
Yeah.
And
And they don't
Barcelona,
believe.
every single call has screwed Barcelona. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
that's literally
Yeah.
not true.
Like they
It's
haven't
not
benefited.
true.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, yeah. But here's the thing. In my experience, especially in the last, like, even during like 3P era, like post VAR, there's been very few that are obvious errors. Like I would agree, like sometimes I look at calls, whether it's penalties, goals given, offsides, not offside, whatever, where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. There was one recently that we got in our favor that I was like, meh, I can see, but also I can't see. You know what I mean? Like I can see why it was given, but I also could see why it wouldn't be given in a situation like that. But there's nothing like blatant. But like, for example, Barcelona's account, like official account, posted the Jordi Alba goal from however long ago,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
where he
right.
like
Recently.
ran it
Yeah, yeah,
behind.
yeah. I remember
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
recently, like in December,
Yeah.
like saying goal of the day, and it was
Yeah.
like very blatantly. It wasn't close. Like
Yeah. Against Celta.
yeah, where he like
Yeah.
croqueta and then scores.
And Celta
But
called them out for that. They reposted it on their account. They were like, and they showed them
yeah,
the angle of the offside. Yeah.
it's outrageous that like the account, but that like the delusion goes down to the club. Like it's insane. And also I think like even professional, every footballer has said this. Like Real Madrid's obsessed with winning. Real Madrid's mentality is win. Barcelona's mentality is be better than Real Madrid. Like it's just they're obsessed with us and we're obsessed with winning. And I think that's where the difference is in mentality. And now just with all of like the internal issues that they have, like I don't know. It's hilarious. I saw also on Twitter that one of, I think, the Almeria players like reposted the video of Drogba, basically saying that, like, you know, the famous one after that game.
It's a disgrace.
Yeah. And Barca fans were like quote tweeting it, like hyping up that video, and everyone's like,
do you not get the irony of that?
Yeah,
do you know who that video was against initially? Yeah.
And so it's just mentality, I think, that's different. I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, like, and not to bring, I mean, we've already brought so much attention to it, but I think Barcelona criticize a lot the videos that Real Madrid TV creates about the referees before the game.
Yeah.
They criticize it, but then simultaneously say the league is fixed for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So, like, out of curiosity, guys, what do you see when you watch the videos? Like, do you just ignore about all the footage? Whatever you think about Real Madrid, whether you think it's embarrassing that they do that or not, is besides the point. You look at those videos, which is a compilation of evidence that Real Madrid gets screwed all the time, and you look at that and you criticize them doing that, and then on top of that, you say Real Madrid is getting favored.
Yeah.
Like, what about, I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on the actual footage that you're seeing? Do you have any opinion on that? Because they just ignore that part of it as well.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like the evidence. It's the same with the Vinny goal. Like, it's right in front of you. Like, it's just bias. I think it's really what it is. You know what I mean? Like I think that you can look. Some things are objective and subjective, and some aren't. You know what I mean? And they're turning things that should be objective into subjective. You know? Like
which it shouldn't be the case when you have video evidence. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, it's right in front of you. Like, you're just choosing to believe what you want to believe despite like the proof. And even with this whole thing, like with the whole like referees for the last 2 decades, like, you wouldn't be being investigated if there was no evidence. Like, you wouldn't be, you know what I mean? Like, there wouldn't be court dates and court appearances if there was no evidence. So
yeah,
with that what they will. But
all right, well, let's circle it back to Real Madrid. So we have a nice break this week because we got eliminated from the Copa del Rey. So we don't have to play Sevilla on Thursday, which Atletico do have to do. We can focus on the league and the Champions League coming up. I want to get your thoughts on this. So we always have like a few quote unquote weeks from hell where we have Champions League and big La Liga games sandwiched in within like days of each other. So we have February 13th. Sorry, let me start. February 4th. Atletico, then Girona, then Leipzig. What are your thoughts on that upcoming stretch? How do you think the team's going to do in that stretch? And can we get through it unscathed?
I think the rest will be good because I think that and referee decisions were like the preparation for the team going, like, you could tell they were exhausted against Atleti, you know, and all of those things, being exhausted physically and mentally, and just like the team, I feel like wasn't like they didn't perform, you know, like all of the goals that we conceded against Atleti were mistakes. So that's like a tough pill to swallow because it's not like we got outplayed, you know, like it's not like we were dominated and they deserved to win. Like, it was an unfortunate mistakes. But I think with rest and like with the tenacity that Real Madrid have, they'll be prepared for sure. And they're going to want to come back against Atletico Madrid and win for the third derby in like 3 weeks, by the way.
And fourth this season.
Yeah, insane.
Possible, like, think about this. It could be 6 if we draw them in the Champions League next round. That's a possibility.
Yeah, insane. And so I think that one will be like a shoo-in. I think that will be easy. I think the hard game, I think Leipzig will be pretty easy as well. I think Champions League Real Madrid is different. Tournament football is different, and they'll go into that with like the highest mentality. You know, I'm not as stressed about that. Obviously, it's a lot harder than like getting a a Copenhagen, for example, in Champions League. But I think it'll be tough, but I don't think that's an issue. I think the game that is really important for us is Girona, because I think right now we have a game in hand. So like they're leading on points, but that's a title decider. If we win and they drop, like it's the most important game for them as well to maintain the title. So they're going to also be throwing everything. But our first game against them, we won, and that was their only loss this season, I think. So
well, I also for that reason, I think they're really circling that on the calendar because they beat Barca and Atletico, scored 8 goals combined against them, but the one big team that really, like, it wasn't even close. It was such a comfortable 3-0 win for us in Girona earlier this season. I'm sure they're hungry for that one to prove that everything else has not been a fluke and they can beat Real Madrid. So I think that's going to be a really tough game, no doubt. But it is at home, and I believe in us. I believe in us despite the Atletico elimination. I believe in us despite us looking a little bit more mortal the last few games. Look, like, there's fatigue, there's injuries. There's also just the fact that these guys are human in the end. There's no such thing as perfectionism.
Yeah.
You're not going to go your entire season playing absolutely lights out every game, no matter what the opponent is. It's tough. I've seen so many takes, Leah, that like after the Atletico elimination, that if we play like this, there's no way we're winning anything this season. Like, dude, every single year we say this. There's like no exception. We say it. We even said it in the 16-17 season, where that was like arguably the best Real Madrid ever. Like, we were saying all the time.
Real
So we
Madrid
gotta learn.
They're so some of them with every club, like there's fans that are just like delusional. But some of them, like even like benching Vinny or like benching Rodrigo for, Brahim's been insane. Like, I think that he deserves to have minutes 1000%. But like, you know what I mean? It's like one thing happens and it's like, oh my God, we have to do this. But I agree with you. I think, first of all, tournament football, as we know, is totally different, regardless of the team. Like a chance for elimination, it just adds more. You know what I mean? It's not like the league. That's why, like, sometimes crazy things happen, like in Champions League or in, that's how some teams get so far, is because like they get lucky with draws, or they get lucky, like there's no redemption. Like, you know what I mean? If you get a lucky penalty, for example, and then park the bus for the rest of the match, like you've won the game and you're eliminated. That's it. So do I think that we played poorly against Atleti? Yeah, we did. Do I think that there was more involved than just like being prepared for the game and like skill? Yeah. Like, the schedule has been insane, and some people, like, even before that, there were like 3 international breaks in like a month or 2 months or something. And like for like cross-continental players, like Vinny, Fede, Rodrigo, like these players are flying 12, 13
it's
hours.
crazy. You know how it is flying too. It's draining.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And then time zones too is just like, you know what I mean? And not only that, they're playing like a match. Like, I'm just going and standing, and that's tiring. But I'm not playing 90 minutes of several times. Like, the last international break, there were like 3 or 4 matches in, Bolivia was one of them, where the altitude, you know what I mean? So like, it's a possible that it's just they've not recovered, and some of them have knocks. We've had injuries, like, but I think for this upcoming schedule, we'll have a break. They'll get rest. Jude is being rested against Las Palmas, I think. Against.
Is that the next game?
Yeah, that's the next game, I think. Because he got a yellow. So.
Oh, that's right. He's suspended. Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll be like forcefully rested, which I think is necessary. And like, it should be an easy match too. So Ancelotti, in theory, will start other players to give other players minutes and rest some other players. I think that, we have Tchouaméni, Camavinga, everyone kind of coming back from injury and having now a few matches under their belt. So for me, like, I'm not stressed. I think the most important game is Girona, but I'm not stressed.
How much time do you have?
I'm good.
I have some important questions for you.
Okay.
So you're speaking about just the fact of how tiring it was for the South Americans
Yeah.
playing those international games, coming back. I mean, that's got to be tough. And those situations, like I remember, I think it was the Atletico game we lost earlier this season at the Metropolitano. It was a situation where we couldn't even rest Rodrigo, who was coming back. That first
the next
game back,
day, I think it was.
Something very, it was very tight either way because Vinicius was already injured.
Yeah.
And like we just couldn't, like we've seen Ancelotti in those first games back. Zidane would do this a lot too, like rest the South American players in that first game back because it's just so grueling.
Yeah.
Flying is tough. What hacks have you personally come up with? Like you and I both know what it's like to be jet lagged and just groggy and not know where we are, what planet we're on. I think when we met in Montreal, that's I'm amazed we even had a coherent conversation. We were both
I was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any tips and tricks?
I wish I could. If anyone has any, give them to me, please. Because I am not a plane sleeper either. So I struggle a lot with that. I'll usually get 3 hours, maybe, if I'm lucky. And
especially like everything's a red eye almost from Canada to Europe.
Everything. Yeah. Like I was saying yesterday, I flew back. I left London at like noon, I think. So I was flying back in the daytime. Like I got home at like 8 p.m. yesterday, which is a treat. But I don't remember the last time I've flown there, not overnight, which I think actually is better. Because usually what happens is I have a day, I stay awake. Like I don't sleep for the first day that I'm there. So that way, like within a day, I'm at least on like Europe schedule. I wake up normally and I sleep so well that night because I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
But no, I've not really like I get as much sleep as I can on the plane is really like what it is. Having a gin and tonic before a flight makes you a little sleepy, so that's helpful, but I don't do that all the time because there's nowhere to even have it to eat. Like there's a Tim Hortons in the Ottawa airport. That's it. Booster juice also. So
the temperature on the plane is absurdly horrible. It's either like a sauna or you're literally in the sky. Like you might as well just be in the clouds. How cold it's so cold.
I'm freezing always. Always. Always.
The one trick that I've learned is doing a workout when you land.
Oh, you have energy for that?
What's that?
You have energy for that?
No, but it works. And
really?
I came across some pseudoscience that it's like the ultimate hack to cure jet lag, and I did it, and it was like, holy shit, yeah, this is game changing. So
just your endorphins just go like crazy.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, there's some science behind it, but yeah, just like getting a quick day pass to the closest gym to where you're staying, doing a workout and getting out of there, and it'll change. I remember doing the London. You did 3-day London just this past. You just came back from the 3. I remember doing a 2-day London from Canada last year during that 2022 Champions League run. The Stamford Bridge where Benzema scored 2 goals.
I remember that because I was in London like a day or 2 later, and I was gonna come to your podcast in London. Remember? I think we talked about that.
I think that was a different trip.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, yeah, it was because the London podcast, I think I was there for a little bit longer. So it was less than 48 hours. It was basically a day. So what I did was the game was on like a Wednesday and I left Canada on a Tuesday and my flight back was Thursday morning. So it was you arrive Wednesday morning and leave Thursday morning. And it's not like Thursday morning at 10 a.m. It's like a 6 a.m. flight. So it was get there, do the podcast, I do the game, get home from the stadium, do a podcast in the Airbnb, and then go straight back to the airport, basically, without sleeping. And my plan was, okay, so I'll get there in the Wednesday morning and I'll just sleep all day. I don't need to see London. Who cares? I'm just going to sleep all day.
Yeah.
And then my friend David Garrido of Sky Sports texted me because he caught wind I was coming, and he's like, "Hey man, can you come to the studio at 9 a.m. and be on the show?" I'm like,
So that means no
good
sleep.
idea
Okay.
or a bad idea? And my reaction was, okay, I think my future self will regret it if I just don't say yes to this. So I did it, and again, like I was telling you off air, it's like at that point, it just feels like your face is falling off your skull. You're not functioning. It's absolutely bonkers. Yeah. All right. So what's next for you? What's the next trip?
What's happening? March. I have EPROM again in March. So
Where is
London.
that? London.
London.
Okay.
I'm going to Madrid for a week after that because my boyfriend he lives in Argentina, but he works in Spain, so he'll be there for a few months.
So you might catch the Leipzig second leg. It depends on when you get there.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go. I'm hoping to go to a match while I'm there. Maybe create some content with some other clubs also. I'll be in Madrid again in May. And then I think it's not been announced yet, but let's just say for now, I have a trip to Argentina planned also for April, May.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, I look forward to following it on Instagram. Leah Revelle on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch.
Everything.
Everything, especially if you're a gamer and you play FIFA, definitely go and check out Leah's content. But also, she tweets a lot during games. If you just want Real Madrid takes, she's great for that as well. Go follow her. Leah, thanks for jumping on the podcast. I appreciate it. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
All right, welcome to part 2 of the Managing Madrid podcast. We got Lucas Navarrete here on a much delayed appearance. If we did El Dia Después yesterday, it would have been lights out. Just a banger of a podcast because there was so much to talk about. Although maybe it's for the best that we did it 2 days after. We got a Militao contract extension to talk about. We got some new things. If we recorded yesterday, we wouldn't have seen Real Madrid TV go at Xavi and then Xavi respond today. So we got that also trickling in. So Lucas, welcome, man. How you doing? What's up?
Hey, Kiyan, I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to tackle all these things with you.
Embiid dropping 70 last night.
How many free throws?
I don't know.
I haven't checked. Let me check.
Like, he also had a bunch of rebounds.
Yeah, I never pay attention to Embiid's game. I don't like free throw contests.
You're such a hater, man. Just because he's competing with Jokic.
Oh, 23 free throws attempted. Okay.
Cat also had a bunch of points. At halftime, he had 44. What did he end up with? He had
60. He only had 4 points in the fourth quarter and lost the game. And his coach kind of went out of his way to criticize his effort.
Really?
Yeah. You didn't see it? He said like he was trying to put up numbers. And the team they lost the game against Charlotte, so I think criticism was deserved, I guess.
I was sad to see Lowry go to Charlotte. Trade happened just before we hit record.
Wow, the Miami team is looking serious now, man.
Yeah,
such a home run for them. Yeah,
solid trade. I assume Lowry will get flipped to a better team, maybe Philly. I don't know. They'll have to buy him out first. I think on that contract, I think it's pretty impossible for any team to find find him a place. Really, like 30 million for him at this age is like crazy. Yeah, they need to buy him out first. All right, so let's talk, man. Where do you want to start? I'm going to let you figure it out.
Almeria, I guess.
Okay.
First things first. Yeah, to me, there's the three. Look, I get the frustration from anti-Madridistas and from Almeria fans and from Barcelona fans, all that. It's just, it doesn't happen very often that the same team gets 3 straight VAR reviews to go their way in a span of 20 minutes, right? I mean, we would be frustrated if Barcelona had this gone their way. It's just easy for me to admit that. But on the other hand, I feel like all 3 calls were right. to me, the most controversial one was actually the handball, the penalty. You could see a scenario where, a foul is called on Rudiger in that play. Not on Joselu, but on Rudiger. I think he actually maybe makes fouls the defender there. So there's a scenario where you could see the referee saying, "Hey, I'm not gonna call this penalty because Rudiger is actually fouling the defender." I'm pretty sure that's not the way
that
VAR
would have been
works.
really soft. Rudiger just jumped up in the air. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, I agree. But we've seen soft calls like this one made in the past. So would have been soft, would have been frustrating. But there's a scenario where that foul is called, right? That's all I'm saying. The rest, the two of them, the rest of the calls, the two of them, they were just fairly obvious to me. There's just no world in which the ball gets out of Vinicius's arm with that kind of power and with that kind of speed, if it's in fact a handball not hit by the elbow or the hand, right? If it's hit by his biceps or whatever you want to call it, the ball doesn't have that much power. So to me, it's fairly clear that the ball hit his shoulder, and I don't even feel like we need to comment on the Bellingham thing on Almeria's potential third goal. I think that was completely obvious and something that was never going to stand after a review. So yeah.
I'm actually going the other way. I'm completely zagging all the Barcelona and Almeria fans who are outraged, and I'm saying that referee should have done better in terms of getting calls right, seeing
first time,
things, seeing a lot of things off the ball, like that Ceballos incident. By the way, bad refereeing overall, because Vinny had one too on an Almeria defender. I think should have been called, and there was also, just as always, right on cue, free reign on tackling Vinicius, Bellingham, Camavinga. Just whatever you want to do to those guys, just kick the crap out of them, and the yellow card goes to the Real Madrid player for complaining about it. That stuff continues to be a problem. So
look, but yeah, Kiyan, but let's just admit, I need to have some honesty here. I would be frustrated if we get those 3 calls against us in a Clásico against Barca. I would be. It's natural to be. I would be frustrated. Maybe, if it's on a neutral game, like, I don't know, Malaga against Deportivo La Coruña, and those 3 calls go in favor of Malaga, I would agree with that. Like, I'm not saying that we got the benefit of the doubt even. I'm just saying that if those 3 calls were against Madrid in El Clásico, for example, we would be frustrated. I think it would be healthy to admit that.
I could admit that I think the Real Madrid fan base would probably say something. Me personally, I probably wouldn't talk about it as much. Yeah, but I also barely talked about it on the Managing Madrid podcast on Sunday about these calls. That we just kind of went through them in 5 minutes. The rest was tactical analysis. But I could definitely see the fan base being triggered by it.
We would say though, on the penalty, we would say that Bale was called for an attacking foul in El Clásico in a very similar context 4 or 5 years ago, I think. Remember that foul on Jordi Alba?
Yeah.
Ludicrous foul for Real Madrid preventing Real Madrid from winning a crucial Clásico. He was called for a foul there.
For doing nothing wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But in this same context, if that goal goes against Real Madrid and the referee doesn't call a foul on a VAR review in El Clásico against Barca, we would say, hey, remember Bale 5 years ago? The Spanish referees called an attacking foul on Bale now, and now they're taking a look at a very similar play on replay, and they're letting things stand, and Barca is getting a penalty. We would be saying that.
But this is a huge problem that every single time there's a call that is controversial, we start bringing up examples.
Oh, and
we can't look at incidents in isolated ways. We have to always do, what about this and what about that? And it's not consistent. It's fair to bring it up, but this is just instead of looking at every single play in a vacuum, it's what about this, what about that? If it's within the same game, I think it's excusable, for example, to bring up other things. But when you go back years and say this and that and...
No, especially in the pre-VAR era, right? The Bale thing happened pre-VAR, so, I mean... has nothing to do with this. Nobody got to see it at a in a replay. Nobody got to see a review of it. So it's definitely a different context. But we would be frustrated. Maybe not us. Maybe not we ourselves. But definitely the fan base would be up in arms if these 3 goals had gone against the Real Madrid in El Clásico. I think so, and I think it would be. I think it would be somewhat fair to be at least frustrated. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories like Xavi is doing, right? I'm just talking about frustration.
I had this frustration with Diego too yesterday that like the goalposts just keep getting shifted. So first it's like, well, Real Madrid are corrupt and get all these calls, and you go back through history, and then when you when you bring up examples and to counteract that, the answer was, well, okay, well, this season. I'm like, what's next? You're going to say, like, from minute 5 to 10 in this game?
What's been wrong this season, though? I mean, when they say this...
This is nothing. But this is what it is. They interpret rules differently. So, for example, to him and many culés, earlier this season when the Kepa mistake where he got fouled. I don't remember who it was against. Was it Almeria maybe, ironically? Earlier this season, when, like, very beginning stage of the season, when Kepa goes up to claim a cross and he drops it and the ball goes in.
Maybe I actually missed that one because of my trip to the US, because I really don't have an image of that. So, yeah. Maybe it's the one game I missed because I watched the Celta game from the US in Charleston. But I think the Almeria game I missed.
It was Celta. Anyways, so it was it was clearly a foul, and so to them that wasn't a foul. And this goes back again. So to them, the Vinicius thing was a handball and not shoulder, right? So exactly. So this is my point: is we're seeing the same images, but they're interpreting it in a different way. So that's why. And I'll give you another random example. Remember Lucas Vázquez's when he gets pushed in the box against Juve in the last minute?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Benatia, yeah.
To them, that was a dive and corruption.
Yeah, they've been talking about this for a decade almost, yeah.
Right. And so it
was a soft call. I have to agree with them. Soft call. Foul. I'm not saying it's a dive. It's a somewhat soft call, though.
Okay. So, for example, to give you more, and again, I'm bringing this up only because I'm trying to give you an idea of their rationalization, how they think. And this is Diego, and I say this to his face all the time, so it's not me talking behind his back. I said it to him yesterday. I'll say it, and I'll send him this clip of me saying it. And it applies to many culés. This is because I know...
F you, Diego.
I know that Diego also gets a lot of his inspiration, let's put it, from these big Barca Twitter accounts like Zona Blaugrana, if you've seen.
Don't even know them, but yeah, okay.
Mr. Satan. So these guys are just...
that I know.
Okay, so they don't talk about even Barcelona. Even when Barcelona's playing, they're just trying to clip images about Real Madrid. And a lot of the things they put as evidence, quote-unquote evidence, is just literally proof that they're wrong. But they interpret it differently. They're seeing different... Their brain just interprets it differently than we do, right? So there was the Vázquez thing, and then if you go back and they'll bring up examples of how we had offside goals against Bayern, but of course, when in that same tie, against Bayern, when Lewandowski had a goal counted which should have been disallowed for offside, or if there were other mistakes in that same tie, they don't see that part. So they don't see bad officiating, they see corruption.
Exactly.
Meanwhile...
They cannot have it both ways. Sorry, just finish. I'll go ahead and let you finish. Yeah.
Well, sorry, just meanwhile, if you bring up PSG remontada, or Chelsea, or Arsenal, or Inter...
Or Real Madrid in the semifinals.
They will bring up the examples from those games that went against them. So... only the games where they play in, we're not allowed to count the examples against them. But when Real Madrid plays, we're not allowed to bring up, the Bayern offside goals, right?
Exactly.
So this is the way they think. This is why you're not talking. It's very, very difficult to have the conversation because it's not logic at that point. What are you going to say? Like we're seeing the same things. We're not allowed to bring up examples of certain things. So at that point, so this is my theory, because I don't think it's possible to be this dumb to interpret it this way. My theory is that they don't believe what they're saying. Is the only way.
No, I think they're just blind by their passion. I don't think they're not honest. Blindness. I don't think they're not honest, man. I believe them when they feel this way about Real Madrid, but I just think they're blind by their passion, really. I just think they're that biased that they are not seeing, they're not seeing it both ways.
When Laporta goes up yesterday at that event and says it's a shame, it's shameful what happened, and Xavi says what he says. Again, the reason why I think they don't believe what they're saying is because I think their true intention is to deflect away from their own things. That's what my theory stems from, is that they're just trying to create smoke.
Yeah, in the case of the coach and the president, that might be accurate in the case. In terms of just regular fans, I just think that they're just too biased and because of their passion for the club and because of the whole narrative that we have been fed up here in Spain, which is Franco, 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 and Florentino, 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 and that's just what we've been fed as Spaniards living in this country for 5 decades, if not 60. So, I mean, that's obviously made its way into their brains, and I think they're just blinded by their own passion in this case. I see your point when you're talking specifically about Xavi and Laporta and maybe some of the players and all that, because they know better. But in terms of the regular fans, I just think it's a case of their own bias and their own agenda and their own passion for.
But I think they have to lean into their identity, because if they start being fair, they're no longer what their brand is. Like, if Gerard Romeo goes on his Twitch stream, and I've never watched.
That guy's a clown, man.
I haven't watched it, but again, when I log into the Churros Twitter account, I see all the people that the algorithm shows because Diego goes in that account a lot, and it's all these Barca pages. So I see like stuff like clips from Romeo. Is it Romeo?
Romero, yeah,
Romero. I don't even, yeah. So he knows that after a game like Real Madrid Almeria, he can just go on Twitch and make bang, like just going and leaning into this identity of Real Madrid corruption, right? He doesn't necessarily need to believe what he's saying to rile people up. He just knows.
I do think he believes it, though.
Possibly. But certainly, like, there is no reason for him to try to be objective in those situations. He won't. I don't think he'll even try, because it's not good for his brand, for a bunch of Kool-Aids to log on and be like, well, you know what? Actually, I think it hits Vinicius' shoulder, and I don't think Real Madrid are corrupt, and I personally think that we have a lot of corruption and we shouldn't have paid Negreira. Like, that Barcelona fans are not going to log in to watch that. No, they'll be like, "What the hell are you talking about, dude?"
It's just hard for me to ask of any passionate fan to be truly objective. And here you have a.
Yeah, we all have biases, admittedly.
Exactly.
But
you
there
have
are
a perfect example in the start of this podcast when I discredit Embiid for scoring 70 just because of his free throws, right?
Basketball is different, though. I'm personally, when it comes to basketball, I'm a casual. So I'm kind of like, I'll make fun of myself too when I talked about basketball.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't hold myself to the same standard when talking about the NBA. I can be a hardcore Nuggets fan and a true Embiid hater when talking about the NBA, because I'm not an NBA journalist, right? And even though I'm like 95% of the time I'm reporting something in football related, I know I'm talking to Real Madrid fans. Like, I know my profession and my job is to be honest and try to be objective, even though, my audience is Real Madrid oriented. So there's a certain degree of acknowledgement that I'm biased towards Real Madrid, but at the same time, I have to keep myself in check, right? That's all I'm saying. I don't need to keep myself in check when talking about Embiid and the NBA. I don't. I'm just a casual. You said it perfectly. But again, I think we're all it's very hard to be objective in every way. So I don't hold anything against whoever builds his own conspiracy theory about Real Madrid in this case. Let's just forget about this, and I will just stop trying to convince them. Like they're happy living in their own world where they're, they always have the bad side of referee going their way, because even though they've been paying Negreira millions and millions of euros for 2 decades, they still feel like, this is all a Real Madrid plot, and Real Madrid are ruling in every single competition because of the referees. So I'll just stop trying to convince them otherwise. And I have good training because living in Valencia, I get pretty much the same narrative and the same arguments from Valencia fans for many years now. So I have good training of kind of not getting too upset or too angry at them when they say these things, and just stop and let them live in their own world, which they seem happy to do. So yeah.
I on this note, before we move on to Militao, I sometimes miss the just being ignorant and just living in bliss of not knowing what other people are saying. And look, it's healthy to have different opinions than yours. It's healthy to have different perspectives. It's not healthy to only have your opinion and people you agree with all the time. I think it's really good that we also have diverse opinions on Managing Madrid. You and I disagree all the time, and I think that's healthy. But I definitely, the Twitter algorithm since Elon took over has been just pushing things that I'm just not like, I didn't really sign up for these takes. I didn't sign up for this hysteria. It's kind of nice to just, and that's why, like, where I really think Twitter peaked to me was before Elon took over. There was this period where before the For You section, and you could only see people you followed.
You can still do that if you want to, but
but you got to keep going back, and it keeps going to default.
Not to me though, but yeah.
Really?
Appointment. Yeah. Once maybe
so
once every
stopped...
3-4 months, but
yeah. Okay. For me, it's like anytime I log into Twitter, the default is For You, and I got to keep switching it back, and then I'm just like, by then I've already been my eyes have been burned with absolute disaster all over the place. All right, stop. Enough complaining.
Again, just Kiyan, I reached a point where, again, I just don't care about what Barca fans or Valencia fans or even Madrid haters say about corruption in La Liga and Real Madrid corruption with referees and all that. I mean, as long as it comes from an honest point of view, and from a rational point of view, saying, hey, maybe you got the benefit of the doubt in this particular game. I mean, that's honest and that's debatable. But as soon as you start building up conspiracy theories after paying millions of euros to the vice president of the referees for 20 years, it's just to stop, man. Just keep saying whatever you want. I'm not paying attention to you.
Yeah. So Erling Militao gets extended for what the contract goes until
28.
I'm fine with it. I know you said it was risky.
It is risky. We have to admit that. I mean, I'm fine with it too. Let's just admit it's risky though.
Well, what did his old contract run till? Was it 2026? 2025?
Not sure. Maybe 25.
I'm assuming, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that they really like his progress, and he's back earlier than expected. He's a player you want to lock up. He's a relatively young defender. There's not too many world-class center backs out there that are attainable. You can make him the cornerstone of your defensive line. Right now, you already have an aging Alaba coming off an ACL tear. You have Nacho, who may or may not renew, and even if he does, it's like another 1 year. I think it's more than okay to do this now. I mean, maybe you can question, like, why now and not, like, you know, in the summer or next year, or at least see him come back. But I'm more than okay with it.
I'm okay with it too. I think, well, I don't think, I know that that the club is satisfied with what they've seen from him in these latest stages of his recovery. Militao is doing really well. It seems to me that he's going to come back in a few months, 2 months maybe, if not 6-7 weeks, at least come back training and kind of be ready to be available and start like ramping up before potentially contributing in big games later this season. I'm not sure about that though. But we just have to admit it's risky, man. We just have to admit it's risky. We don't know whether or not he will recover 100% of his explosion, for example, of his burst of acceleration, which was something he relied a lot upon, by the way. He was a very physical defender, relying a lot on his physical attributes to be as brilliant as he was. We don't know this years yet. We've seen examples of defenders struggling post ACL tears. Varane is one of them. Van Dijk is one of them too, even though I think he's been doing better lately. But he struggled a lot for his during his first few months, if not years, after that ACL tear. So all I'm saying is risky. All I'm saying is risky, and it will have probably been less risky and maybe even wiser to spend a few more weeks kind of waiting before and see his first 2-3 games back to kind of make a final decision. This was obviously agreed upon, not now, months ago, if not years.
That's the key point I think we should have started with.
That's obvious. Yeah. That's obvious and clear. Still, though, I mean, what if Militao, and this is something didn't happen, and it's just a scenario, what if Militao suffered any kind of heart disease or heart condition that prevented him from playing at a high level years from now? We're sure that agreement wouldn't have been valid, right? He suffered a major injury, man.
Any single contract.
No, I know. But no, all I'm saying is that he suffered a major injury, and I'm 100% sure that agreement they had in place could have been like postponed in a pretty reasonable way.
That's a really shitty thing to do if you're the club. I think that would be really bad to go back on that kind of verbal agreement. I don't know.
I'm not saying going back. I'm just saying waiting, though.
Oh well, if it's already agreed upon, I don't think they're gonna go back on it. Like he's not dead. He's obviously like they're seeing him in training now. He's recovering
and that's why they
well.
Extend him.
Yeah, if he was like if this was a case where he was 34 and he's out for like an entire year, he didn't even miss the entire season by the looks of it.
Yeah, but look, Kiyan,
he's coming back this season.
I'll put you in what's to me a very similar spot here.
Okay.
Imagine Real Madrid had a verbal agreement or the same kind of agreement they had with Militao with Alaba before the injuries he suffered. Would you go back?
It wouldn't happen because Alaba's older.
Maybe an extra year. Maybe they again, for the sake of argument, just stands. I know it's not a realistic scenario because Alaba's age is different. Blah blah blah. Fine, okay, I'm fine with that. It's not a realistic scenario, but okay, for the sake of argument, wouldn't it be wiser to say, hey, maybe Alaba's career is compromised now?
I understand your point, but if they had offered Alaba such a contract, it would be 1 year. And it wouldn't be a huge risk. And Alaba's kind of in the same situation as Militao in the sense that he's going to be back before his contract runs out. Keep in mind that the Alaba extension is more unrealistic because he already has a pretty lengthy contract.
Yeah, sure, fine.
Let me double check that because that's off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure
I think it's 26. I think it's 26.
Yeah, so they wouldn't. He's already on a long contract, so I think it would be pretty unrealistic to offer Alaba a renewal.
His contract expires in 26, but again, for the sake of argument, maybe Real Madrid had an agreement in place to kind of decrease his salary in exchange of an extra year or two, because his salary is I think he's the second highest paid player in Madrid, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure after these new extensions, the Vinicius extension maybe puts him ahead of him. But he was, in the Hazard years, he was just second behind Hazard, and he was even highest paid than Benzema back in the day. So
are we talking about Alaba?
Yeah, he's one of the highest paid players in Madrid.
Alaba and Cruz are two of the highest. I don't know what the exact.
I think it's Bellingham, Vinicius, and then Alaba in Real Madrid's current roster at this point. Maybe he's right there with Kroos and Modric.
Too.
Yeah, he's probably in the same tier as Modric and Kroos. But again, it's not realistic to see a long-term contract being offered, but maybe you could see a scenario where he lowered his salary in exchange for 2 extra years. And again, what do you do if you're Real Madrid in this context? I think you go back and say, hey man, your knee injury is pretty bad. You're already and Militao is younger, granted, but you're already 30, 31. We're not so sure about this right now. Let's just give you all the time you need to come back and heal properly from this, and then make sure this agreement will be in place as soon as we see that you're able to play 5 games at an elite level. I think that's all I'm saying. I think it would be fair to ask him that, and obviously it will be kind of bad luck for him because it's a misfortune, but again, I think it would be wise for Real Madrid to treat that case in that way.
I don't know. I have a different opinion on this. I think it would be really shitty of the club to do that. And I also think, and this is going out on a limb, and I'm making an assumption here, but my assumption would be if they could have easily also just made this contract renewal, a couple months ago too, and before knowing he was coming back earlier. Because I think once you have kind of decided it's really hard to go back, because then it's also a message on how Real Madrid treat other players, to other players looking in about potentially joining Real Madrid one day. I think that image matters, and I also think. Again, I'm pretty sure at this point they have the medical clearance and the medical analysis of okay, this guy's fine, he's coming back.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do. So, they do have the analysis and the exams saying that Militao is doing way better, and that Militao will be just fine once he comes back. There's always the risk of I'm not talking about another injury. I'm talking about him not being able to recover a small percentage of his explosion and his caliber as a player on the field. I'm not talking about another injury, another knee injury. Obviously, there's always risk of that for every single player. I'm just talking about him potentially not being able to recover. I don't know, 10% of his physical explosion, physical ability. I think sample size is huge in that regard, proving that it's not easy to recover 100% of your skill set and your physical abilities off an ACL tear. I think sample size is huge in that regard. And again, Militao relied a lot on that. So
I guess, I just am a fan of locking up all the untouchable young players that you want to build around. Make sure they have impossible release clauses. You have them for, the good part of a decade. So the list of contract renewals, Rodrigo, Vinicius,
Valverde,
Camavinga, all untouchable players. You got Militao now added into the mix. I guess next, Tchouaméni, I suppose. Did he get one recently?
I don't think so.
No,
Tchouaméni didn't. Tchouaméni didn't, but I don't expect him to. I think he kind of, all these players we've mentioned, had a kind of somewhat a small deal because they were on their first, if not second, Valverde wasn't, on their second contract with Real Madrid's first team, right? And obviously their reputation when they first signed for Madrid wasn't as high as Tchouaméni, if you will. Tchouaméni came in with a status already. Tchouaméni's contract is not in the same range as Camavinga's was, right? Tchouameni's status was different when he signed. So I don't think an extension is coming Tchouameni's way just because of that. Not because he doesn't deserve it. I'm not even talking about that, just because of the fact that his salary is already maybe matched with Camavinga's new salary, mind you, for example.
Yeah. I imagine Tchouameni will probably follow suit next year or two.
If he does well, yeah, a year or two.
Provided he performs at a high level, and I think he will bounce back despite this little dip here. This kind of both this season and last season, after the new year, a little bit of a dip. Last year was because of an injury, and then this year he had an injury too, and now he's coming back. He's still trying to find his feet.
But it happened last year too. Remember, he also struggled in the winter. He had all this NBA in Paris controversy. Well, he was
but I think part of the problem too was that Ancelotti wasn't giving him as much playing time, and I think he wasn't playing bad in his cameos after the new year. I thought after the World Cup there was a bit of a dip, and I certainly don't think he was playing bad enough to be benched against City in that second leg.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not. Yeah, his contract expires in 2028. I don't expect Real Madrid to tackle anything until 2026 potentially. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on that we didn't?
No, not really. Quiet week now ahead of the weekend game. Hopefully, Real Madrid
games rare.
Exactly. Hopefully, Real Madrid will be able to kind of regain some conditioning and recover some of that fatigue after those intense weeks, and get ready for those Liga games coming up. One of them against Atletico, so yeah, they'll have to be up to the task in the next few weeks.
And if we had beaten Atletico in the Copa del Rey, we would have been playing Sevilla in a couple days.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's a blessing or I think I'm going to count it as a blessing because I have no choice.
I am too.
Beautiful. All right, Lucas, great chatting, man. You and I will be back for mailbag on
Friday if possible.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about that. Okay?
All right.
Friday is gonna be tough, but we'll figure it out. Either way, mailbag over on Patreon.com/Managing Madrid. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can simply hit the memberships tab or click join and get access to the content there as well. Lucas, great chatting, man. Thank you.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care.
Yeah.
Peace.
You too.